Hey, friends. Welcome to Dishing on Divorce Tuesday edition on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, Podcasts, and TV. I'm your host, Lisa Lisser, CEO and founder of LZL Coaching, a boutique coaching firm focused on divorce, relationships, and life transitions. I'm also a divorced mom of 3 now grown kids, a recovering lawyer, a Jewish educator and spiritual counselor, and a divorce coach who is committed to transforming the divorce experience for everyone involved. Divorce can be scary. None of us who walk through this experience of divorce know what to expect. We have ideas, but they're based on what we've heard from other people, and we really don't know the ins and outs. So many of my clients reach out to me at the beginning of their process. They want to know whether they should hire an attorney, and can I recommend someone? In many cases, I make those referrals, but in others, I suggest another process, another way. Sometimes it's called ADR or alternate dispute resolution. What we're talking about today is mediation, and I believe in the power of agency in divorce. What does that mean? Agency means we make our own decisions. Now, that might sound like the opposite of what you think about when you think about divorce, but I suggest it's exactly the right way to look at divorce. Agency means you get to make your own choices. And when people make their own choices, they stick to their agreements much more consistently. Agency is what the process called mediation means in divorce. Today's guest is Mike Balzano. Mike is an accomplished attorney with over 15 years of experience. He's a passionate mediator and conflict resolution specialist. Mike is an experienced litigator as well, but he relishes the role of peacemaker and problem solver. And he's proud of his ability to resolve even the most high conflict disputes. A proud graduate of St. John's University School of Law, Mike brings extensive experience in mediation and a passion for helping others. Mike, welcome to Dishing on Divorce.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks so much for that really kind intro.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
it's my pleasure. I always like to bring people on who have a great demeanor, who feel like they can be your friend through the process. So often we feel like everyone is against us. Whether they're our attorneys, the other attorney, our spouse, we feel like we don't have real friends in the process. But when I met you, I felt like an immediate connection. And I think that's what your clients feel also. So, what I like to start with is I ask all of my guests, what's your story? How did you choose divorce mediation as your practice area?
Thank you. Well, I have to start by saying, Lisa, that I felt the same way speaking to you the first time. I feel like we are very like-minded where this arena is concerned and the approach and perspectives of divorce, because there are many ways to look at it and approach it, some better than others. So I felt a real synergy when we sat down the first time. So I'm so excited to be on here with you, Lisa. Thank you so much. So my story, how did I end up where I am here? So I attended St. John's University and I graduated back in 2009. So I've been practicing for about 15 years. And when I first came out of law school, 2009 was kind of a fraught time for law school graduates. If anybody remembers, there was a bit of an economic downturn at the time, that kind of recession that kind of driven everybody crazy. I kind of made my way into the legal landscape, and I actually opened up my own shop at the time and became, as you know, for an attorney on their own, became 85% businessman and 15% attorney,
Right.
kind of taking a lot of things that came in the door, you know doing what I needed to do to survive. And that was great. It was exciting. I think I did really well. And it was stressful, but it was what I needed to do at the time. But I have since learned and had the experience to learn that focusing is really what attorneys do best, is finding your area that you can really practice in frequently, understanding them as well or better than anyone else, that's out there. So when you're sitting next to a client, realistically, they can ask you any question, either that you know it because you've experienced it, or because or you do know somebody that knows it, or you know exactly where to look to try to find it, right? So I had gotten to a point where it's like, okay, I don't want to be a jack of all trades. I want to really be an expert. I want to be the person that everybody will turn to when they know they need the right answer. And
Hmm.
so at that point, I start to look at the things that I liked to do. And the thing that I like the most is mediation. I love, love, love mediating conflict. I find that it's so interesting and engaging, and you're dealing with two different parties at the same time. So you're really, you know, having to use all of your skills of negotiation, persuasion, but also just, people management, right? Just dealing with different personalities and the way that different people, approach different situations or react to different situations. And so I find that stuff so fascinating, and interesting. And in addition, and I've been good at it, and I had a lot of success, so that also helps, right?
Hmm.
Um, but finally, I'm in the role of peacemaker. I'm in the role of problem solver. I truly feel like I'm helping people. I'm not contributing to a problem. I'm really getting in there, cracking it open, and trying to get the best of both worlds for everybody. So that's where I ended up today. And I actually had opened up a full service mediation firm, just recently in September, where I've dedicated full time to that. So that's how I came to where I am. And I have to tell you, Lisa, I'm so happy and excited to do it. I really love my work.
That's amazing. And you know what? It helps our clients so much when they're with people who feel passionate about the work. And clearly you feel passionate about the work. And you started out, I mean, I'm really impressed. You got out of law school. There weren't a lot of jobs available, so you just hung out your own shingle, which is pretty brave and courageous. And you made it work. And yet you recognize that you needed a specialty, that that was something that was really important to you. So I think for my clients who are looking at starting something new, like getting inspiration from others who've done the same kind of thing, reinventing themselves and creating something from nothing is really empowering. And it's never really creating something from nothing because you came out of school with this great education, you have a great personality and spirit, and that was the foundation for your new business.
Yeah.
And again, you're doing it one more time. So that's amazing. Nice,
Well,
nice work.
I feel like, well, I feel like I never really put those two things together, but I feel like, yeah, I was kind of forced when I came out of law school to make certain decisions because of the environment, which many of our clients are in the same position, right? Whether forced by necessity because someone has filed and they have to answer it and be part of that process that way, or forced because the situation becomes no longer tenable and they have to make a decision for their survival going forward, right?
Yeah,
So, um, you know, but even if we're forced into a situation, the perspectives that we have going into it, the way that we approach it, really color so greatly what that process looks like. You mentioned it in your intro, and I fully believe it. Divorce does not have to be so terrible. Yes, there are really uncomfortable parts of this process. However, there are better and worse ways to do this, and engaging with the right people through this process, um, goes a long way to
yeah,
to bring you to that part, right? Because we all have our different ways of how we approach this thing, and I'll tell you that certain people are better for certain, for certain types of cases, right?
yeah.
So
So let's dig in because our title of our show is an inside look at divorce mediation. So why don't you give our audience sort of an inside view of what family law mediation looks like from the inside?
great. Okay, so well, typically, a mediation or family law mediation will start in one of two ways, and either, more typically, the parties will have already spoken to attorneys, right? Because you're dealing with the difficulties of a marriage wherein you think that divorce might be a possibility. You're probably pretty emotional, maybe angry, maybe scared. And the first thing that you Google oftentimes is divorce attorney near me, right? And because that's what you know of. I'm getting divorced. I need an attorney to represent me, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? The attorney, your divorce attorney, is your guide. Really, will show you exactly what you are and aren't entitled to, and can really kind of paint a path for you. But once you get to the attorneys, of course, that takes a specific route wherein that begins litigation, right? And litigation can become costly and time consuming. So if you're a good attorney, family law attorney, you will look at your case and determine whether or not mediation is appropriate. In most cases, mediation should be appropriate. Why do I say that? Well, 90 out of 100 divorce cases ultimately settle. So 98% of divorce cases do not go in front of a judge who determine your future for you. Speaking of agency, right? As you said
Yep.
before, 90 out of 100 divorce cases, the judge isn't going to be the one determining for you. You are going to be that person. So 98 out of 100 times, it probably behooves you to have a professional whose role is specifically to grease the wheels for compromise and negotiation,
Mm,
where the attorney's role and their mindset should be to fight and claw for every last thing for you. They're your advocate, right? They're your gladiator. You hired them to fight for you, as they should, right? So involving a mediator as part of an attorney process is really beneficial, and I think the best way. Well, actually, to tell you the truth, I think the best way is to start with the mediator and have the mediator give you referrals for attorneys who they know are settlement minded, right? Who
right.
collaborate well together, they know that you can work well with. Okay, that to me is the best way. But then you're still engaging with attorneys and a mediator, right?
Right.
So that's one way.
So it's so interesting because you mentioned a lot of things that are like buzzwords for me. So collaboration, as a divorce coach, I always like we all think we should be the first stop. But for me, the idea of the divorce coach being the first stop is that I can hear your story, I can hold on to it, and I can direct you to the right professional that you need at the right time. For some people, they need to get a sense of their financial picture first, right? They don't know anything. So then I may refer them to a CDFA at the same time that I'm referring them to a mediator, because I truly believe that mediation is the way to go. I have a certification in pre-mediation coaching, which helps people go through the process, knowing what the process is about and knowing how to advocate for themselves in that context and recognizing the give and take of the process. So if you can be willing to give up something you want for something you want more. And
Yeah,
that's a lot of what mediation is about. So you also mentioned um, hiring an attorney so you know what you're entitled to.
yeah,
And that's really important. We need to know what the law allows. And as a coach, even though I am a former attorney, I don't give legal advice. And I know mediators don't give legal advice either, but we both can identify the law. We can read the law with our clients so that they know what the law says should be a result.
yeah.
Um,
For most people, negotiation is a risk reward scenario,
yeah,
and right, so you're analyzing your risks and what your potential rewards are. So if you really don't know potential outcomes, how do you do that, right?
right, right. But entitlements are tricky because just because you're entitled to something doesn't mean it's actually the best result for you. And I think that's something you can work on in mediation because you as the mediator can hear the story. You listen to the emotions and to the different interests related to each issue. And so you can see where maybe the interests are aligned, where the people may think they're not. And maybe you can see that one person wants one thing a little bit more. So you can help them balance out where maybe they're misaligned with what they think they're entitled to versus what they actually should be seeking for themselves that's best for them and their family.
That is so accurate, Lisa. I mean, so many times people are so caught up in what the court will tell them that they will get that they forget about what they want,
Yeah. So
right?
tell me how you facilitate those conversations when you can see something that maybe the clients in front of you don't see.
Well, it's an important skill set as a mediator, as a conflict, as a person who resolves conflict, to be able to read between the lines, right?
Mhm,
What you're trying to do when I tell people, uh, a successful mediation, a successful settlement, or is a compromise, right? So
mhm,
if you're successful, a successful settlement means that probably both parties are walking out unhappy. Nobody wants to hear that, right? No, it's like,
mhm.
but it means that both of you have given something up that you want. Okay. And so realistically, it's about framing, right? You're going into it. You have to set people up in the mindset that it's like, look, you might think that you want specific things, but more likely you want general things, right? You want to be comfortable. You want to feel safe, right? Maybe you want a specific thing like keeping your child in a school district, which is a very tangible, specific, important thing. Okay. But, your big picture is you want your kids to grow up safe and healthy and aligned and to do that, maybe you don't accomplish that if you keep them in the school district because you don't have enough money to actually do it, and it makes it so much more difficult to get all what you really want for the kids, right? So it's like kind of taking that step back to be like, sometimes we lose the forest for the trees, right? And
Right,
we just see the thing that's in front of us that we think is what's going to get us that goal that we want. But you know, in divorce, we're not thinking clearly, right? We
right,
are so
right,
emotional, right? We are scared. Change is difficult for human beings. We naturally push against it. And so it causes us to think about things in ways that are maybe not how we would logically think about it in any other context of our lives. So my role, how do I approach that, is really start with framing it, being like, listen, I'm going to make suggestions that on its surface you might not like, but I'm listening to you. It's about trust. They have to
mhm,
trust that I know who they are and what they want. And the things that I'm saying to them, it's because I've established that trust that it's like, oh, he knows what I want. Maybe that specific thing is not what I thought it was, but I trust that he knows he's trying to back his way into what the thing that I really want. Right. So that's what it is.
right,
It's establishing trust and really always framing it as like, I might not give you the specific thing, but I'm trying to get you the major thing that you want.
right, right. So what I'm hearing is what you're saying is you're looking behind what a client may say they want to what they really want,
Yeah,
because they don't really know that until you facilitate a conversation that raises issues they might not have thought about.
exactly.
So I love that. We're about halfway through our time, so we're going to take a quick 30-second break to hear from our sponsors, and then we'll be back with Mike Balzano. And we're back with Mike Balzano, litigator, but not really mediator. Right now, we're talking about how mediation really impacts us in the divorce world. So, when we left, we were talking about how Mike helps people clear the way so they can see the forest for the trees. So they can make the distinction, the shift from what they think they want to what they really want. And then they can come to a conclusion that may meet more of their needs than they thought were going to be met. So let's go in a little bit deeper. What does the process of mediation really feel like in that mediation space?
So it can vary pretty wildly, Lisa.
Okay.
Um, depending on personalities and the way that people approach things, it can vary pretty wildly. I have people that come into a mediation process wherein they've already formulated the majority of the major issues. They already have a pretty good idea of how they want to approach them, and they come to the table because they want somebody to get them over the finish line and to make sure that it's comprehensive, any agreement, that they haven't missed anything. Okay, and
Mhm.
it's a smart thing to do. It's tough to do without any help whatsoever. So that's one way. Those can be pretty smooth, although sometimes they have a tendency to blow up once you get to those little, they think the little ancillary issues, right? But those can be big issues as well. So I see that. I see the other end of the spectrum, which is, two spouses both heavily entrenched in their mindset of what they think that they're entitled to, and very far apart, completely mutually exclusive, the possibilities of doing those accomplishing those things, and then you have to get really creative, right? Because either you're going to have very unsatisfied person, or you're trying to accomplish the goals by completely different means, right? So that can have a completely different color. And then there's another one that I like to bring up, because I do feel like for a mediator, it can be quite challenging. And that's when you have, I call it the squeaky wheel problem. Okay. So you have one spouse who's very demonstrative, very loud, very, out there about what they want. And then you have a spouse who, that's not their personality. They're more willing to I just need to get through this. I just need this to be over. Okay. And it's a defense mechanism, right? You're feeling all these emotions, you're dealing with the pain, the hurt, the fear of going through a divorce. And you can't even formulate these thoughts. You can't fight. Like, it's just like, I don't have the will to fight this. And so as a mediator, what do? Right? You have this person who's very adamant, this is what I want. Another person, okay, just give it to him. Now, ethically, do I feel okay with having this one party steamroll over the other party and just impose their will because they are the stronger personality? Or which, you know, is being neutral, which is my role as a mediator. Okay. Or do I impose some of my own sentiment by giving a little bit more of a voice to that party who maybe wouldn't do it for themselves, just to even the playing field a little bit?
Yeah.
It's a tough question for a mediator, because it's taking us out of our natural role as a neutral, impartial. But is it appropriate sometimes? Maybe.
No, I mean, I would say I'm going to fall on the same side you seem to be on, which is that it really is appropriate, because part of the role of being the neutral facilitator is to give each party their voice. So if someone isn't able to speak up, if you have the ability to go in a little deeper and say, so I haven't heard much from you on this. Can you tell me what's going on for you when we're talking about parenting time? Let's go there. You know, what's your concern? What do you feel positive about? How can we just hear what's going on with you, because you've been a little quiet? And like, is that okay in the mediation space? I'm going to lean toward yes, because as a coach, I need to pull out people's voices when they feel like they're not being heard. And really, you're coaching a couple to reach the best solution for them and their family so that they all can launch. And when people realize that this is the purpose, is to give you a foundation for the rest of your life, as opposed to a punishment for what happened before, which I often hear from my clients. He did this, so I'm going to be really hard on this issue. And, that doesn't get us very far in mediation or in litigation, but it's part of the emotional justice story that our clients tell themselves.
You nailed something that I'm very passionate about in this space, which is, that, you know, for a lot of people, yes, this is a closure. This is my opportunity for someone to hear what I've had to suffer for however many years. Okay. This is my opportunity to get back, take my power back. Okay. And that's important, right? That's part of this process. I understand that, divorce is a closure. You need this as natural. We need that ending, right, as
Mhm.
humans. But just as important, I would say more important, Lisa, divorce, what do I think it is? Divorce is the beginning of your next chapter of
Mhm.
life. There are decisions that you need to make within this divorce process that you can never go back and unmake, and that will affect your future. So yes, we have to look at the past, and part of this is getting things off of our chest, right? The closure aspect, but more important is setting yourself up for the next chapter of your life. And to do that, if you're expending all of your mental energy on, well, he did this, so I'm not giving him that. Instead of looking at it like, well, how do we maximize the assets we have upon dissolution so that everybody comes out with more, with as much as we possibly can? What does the next chapter of my life look like? Do I have that in my brain? Right? Can I envision that? How do I set myself up for that? Right? Like, because
Yeah,
if we're not planning for that, you're not. I'm sorry. I don't think we're doing it the right way. Right? Like
yeah,
you need to be planning for
yeah,
next.
yeah. And that's so important every step of the divorce journey. But so often people get stuck in the pain and punishment phase. And even when you're in the mediation space, very often people are still there. It's a process. It takes time to get out of that. But during mediation with the right mediator, you really can work through some of those hard issues and clarify that this is not about yesterday. This is about tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how I like to help my clients when I'm prepping them for the divorce, for the mediation process.
As a
So,
mediator, I want to know what your tomorrow looks like.
yeah,
What does your ideal tomorrow look like? And for so many people, they don't even want to think about that because it's so scary. They think that tomorrow looks terrible. It's just so horrible, so dark. I don't even want to look at that. I just need to get through this.
right.
But look, I'm not just the president, I'm also a client, right? I've been divorced myself, just like you have, Lisa. And I was one of those people. Going through the process was horrible for me. I was very emotional. I had children. I loved being a full-time dad. I had problems with the divorce. And now I'm on the other side. And, I could not be happier, right? Because my ex and we set ourselves up for the next chapter. We really looked at what each of us was looking for. We worked together, we mediated ourselves, and we made it happen. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, yes, I should have been as scared. I should have had those emotions, but like a lot of them were unnecessary. And I'd like to tell people, like, look, I seen it on the other side. It's
Yeah,
beautiful, right? But I also put the work in to get here. And so that you're going to need to do that too, right? Put the work in, and it can be beautiful for you too.
yeah. I love that concept of putting the work in because so often we want things to happen automatically, right? Like people, and in this world, everything is a soundbite. Everything happens like that.
Yeah.
But life doesn't happen like that. Sometimes it does, but sometimes when there's something that you really want to build, it takes a foundation. And the foundation can happen in the mediation space where you're really talking to each other, talking, across instead of talking across each other, you're actually talking through the mediator to get you to the best forward space you can go. And that's why I love the whole concept of mediation. And in fact, I'm training to be a mediator right now. On top of my divorce coaching, I think it's important for me to really know what it takes and what my clients will experience in the mediation room.
It's a great skill set to have, even if you don't practice, which I think you would be a tremendous mediator, Lisa. But even if you don't practice, it's a great skill set to have to understand, because you're putting yourself in the shoes of both parties essentially, right?
Yeah,
Understanding where they're coming from. So it can only behoove your working with any individual party to kind of really have that broader perspective. So I think it's great for anybody to have that skill set.
yeah. And the facilitation, I think, is so powerful because, I was an adult educator also, where it's not like teaching where you're being didactic and telling people this is what happened. You're facilitating a conversation about history or religion or ethics. And that requires a journey for everyone. So mediation is really a journey from the first moment you like tiptoe into the space wondering what's going to happen. So many of my clients think the mediator is going to tell them what they have to do. So what is your answer to that?
Well, there are different. I shouldn't be so broad that there are a lot of different methods of mediation. Different
Yeah.
have people have different styles, and Realistically, you should pick the style that works for your personality, because we all have different personalities. I tend to connect with people. I tend to have people, for whatever reason, trust that, I'm thinking for them. And then so I like to do a little bit more facilitation, because
Mhm.
I feel like I can engender that trust, and I like to talk to people in that way. Some people feel very uncomfortable with that, and they're much more like, you know, I'm going to let you steer the ship, and I'm just I'm just the guide, right? I'm making sure you're not going off the rails, but you're the one who's going to be taking us where we want to, and what you want to do, I'll let you do it. So there's different ways of different approaches, or different ways of going about it. Um, and there's, I guess, an argument to be made, do the same approach with every client, right? So that low conflict client that's been separated for 10 years and pretty much has taken the emotion out of it, and is just trying to figure out how to do an equitable distribution of whatever assets they still have, is quite a bit different than those people who are you know he's living in the basement, she's and they've just came off a fresh argument about who didn't take out the trash the night before,
Right.
right? So you kind of see it all ways.
Yeah. But I
With
guess,
anything, it could be like water. You have to be flexible. That's,
yeah, but that's what it is, because each case is unique on its face. They share characteristics, but they're all unique. So, like when you say you're different for each case, I kind of look at it in a way like parenting. Like, you're a parent, but you parent each child a little bit differently.
yeah,
Based on your experience with the child who came first, or based on the specific needs of the child who's right in front of you.
yeah,
And that's what we do that's what I do with my clients. All my clients are different. And in mediation, the scenarios may have similarities, but you got to be a little different in each case. And that's what makes you the right kind of mediator for many, many clients, because you adapt to them, and they're looking for guidance, but not like you have to do this. Like, I guess what I was trying to say before was, I have clients who talk to me about their mediations, and they say, well, the mediator said that we have to do this. And I'm thinking, that's probably not what the mediator said, even though that's what they might think they heard.
people hear
So,
what they think. People hear what they want to hear.
yeah.
Kind of, yeah. But in the end, mediation, this is people work, right? You are working, you are dealing with people. In some ways, I feel like when I'm mediating, I'm fencing on both sides with my
Mhm.
words on two different, for two different people. Like when you made the analogy of of the kids, how you might parent kids differently. I think of employees, right? So you might
Okay.
have as an employer, you might have an employee who requires attention. They might need to be they want to be micromanaged. Like they like that attention. They need you to be on top of them. And
Mhm.
other people are that's so like it just chafes them to such a degree. It's like, no, leave me. I will get the work done. You manage those people differently. They could both be equally effective, okay? But you manage them differently. And that's how we are. We're all different. All of us are different. We receive
Yeah.
information differently. We respond to things differently. And if we're doing the same approach with every single person, well, it's not going to work for everybody, right?
Right, right. No, I love that. I love that image, because you actually are the facilitator who's facilitating based on the needs in the moment. And that's what makes you stand out as a mediator. Where I will refer clients to you because you're the kind of person that will make them feel comfortable, and help them sort of like the hairs on their back will calm down a little. So, because you have a manner that is easy to be around, and not everybody is like that. Um,
No, no. And I'm sure there are mediations that other people would be more
right.
appropriate for. Maybe somebody a little bit strong, a very high conflict where maybe there are additional issues, for example, like hidden assets, or sometimes even domestic violence issues get mediated. There are people with the designation domestic violence, right? So maybe you need someone more forceful, for something, a scenario like that, right? And that's fine. You need to find the person to do the work in this
Right.
profession, right? As a mediator, as a divorce coach, that fits your needs, right? It needs to be
Yeah.
a fit, right? It's a relationship business, okay? So
And
yeah.
and also, you said it's a relationship business, and part of the stress of divorce is that the foundational relationship in these people's lives has failed, has
Yeah.
fallen apart,
Yeah.
or is no longer working. Like, I don't want to say failed, but it's just not doing what it was designed to do. So then going into a space where you can feel heard, you feel supported, both parties, and there's no favoritism, is a really powerful space to start regaining your self-confidence
Yeah. And,
and just go
and
on.
confidence in the relationship. Because
Yeah.
because what I tell people is if there's kids involved, certainly, okay, the relationship that has failed or is not working the way that you had intended it to, um, that relationship is ending. Okay. However, you're starting a new relationship, co-parent, and co-parent is oftentimes a more difficult relationship than spouse and parent, right? And so it's like, and if as a co-parent you are not, if not friends, which is kind of the ideal, right? But at least functioning, co-parents, where you can be in the same space, the the people that gain the most are the kids,
Yeah.
right?
And that's exactly what I do in my BH2O training, which is a co-parenting workshop to help people recognize that the relationship that wasn't functioning is now done, it's on the shelf. But you're entering a new relationship that based on a business process, that the business is raising kids who are supported, who feel loved, who feel confident. And so what would you do in a business context to create that product? It's a whole different mindset, but that's a different podcast. And for now, I want to thank you so much for being my guest today. An inside look at divorce mediation. Mike, tell us, where can my audience find you?
So you can reach me at my website at adriaticmediation.com. That's A-D like dog, R-I-A-T like Tom, I-C like cat, mediation, M like Mary, E-D like dog, I-A-T-I-O-N.com. Or you can email me at mike.balzano, M-I-K-E dot B-A-L-Z-A-N-O at adriaticmediation.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mike. And for my audience, you are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, Podcasts, and TV. You can find us on YouTube, Roku TV, and anywhere you stream your podcasts. This is Lisa Lisser. You can find me at lzlcoaching.com, Lisa at lzlcoaching.com. It's been a great episode, and I look forward to our next.